I'm muted. Hey guys, I'm muted. Hello. So I'm trying to get a guest on here today, and he's not quite on here yet. So we are just sort of waiting for this to all line up. I have some dogs down here that are deciding they want to play right now, so that's making things fun. What's up, Dan? What's up, Default? Glad to see you guys here. We'll get things going here in a minute. We want to talk about Telescope today, so I'm excited about that. For those that don't know, we're going to talk a lot more about it if I can get my guest on. There he is. Sweet. Hello. You made it. You got to unmute yourself. But we got Andrew here.
There we go.
This is a fellow YouTuber. Say hello. We've got a few guests here already.
Hello, hello.
So Andrew is a fellow developer, and he's been doing Telescope things. And very good timing. You launched your first Telescope YouTube video today. So I definitely will pick your brain about that stuff.
Do it. It's fun. It's more fun than I thought it would be.
Let's see. I'll put you here. Yeah, so this has been good. This is exciting. And boom, everybody can see that. So let's talk Telescope. So I love Telescope. You love Telescope. If anyone has watched my streams before, they see me using Telescope like constantly, like all the time. And so let's see, shift layout. Let me play around with this for a sec. I guess I'll just share screen. Why not? Yeah. So you gotta love you some Telescope. We're gonna kill this, and so I mean this. We'll zoom in a little bit. This is Telescope. I mean it's a file picker. Some people might be familiar with FCF. It is sort of, in my mind, it is very similar in kind of what it's capable of, but it is a Neovim thing, and so you can do lots of things with Telescope. You can look at keymaps, you can look at buffers, you can look at built-in commands and color schemes, which is, I know what you were playing around with. You can do FD commands, you can do history, you can do Git stuff. And we have talked about it a little bit, but Andrew also has a video on Octo. And so Octo lets you, is it Octo branches? I forget what it is. Octo.
Maybe like branch list or something, or
it's
PR
like,
list.
List. It must be like list, yeah. So we'll look at PR list. And so this Octo, is one of the, well, I don't have any. Let's go to this project. But we have issue list. So other people can also create their own Telescope interfaces. So this one is a third-party tool that fetches data from GitHub using the CLI and presenting users with selections here as well. And these things are fuzzy matchable. I'm going to talk a little bit more about how I kind of extend Telescope, because I've done some things to improve the default behavior. The most obvious being, like, I like to position mine at the top at eye level. Same with my TMUX session is up top at eye level. And so, yeah, Telescope does all sorts of cool things.
I like your icon for it too. That's not stock.
I got my little Telescope for Telescope. Little nerd font. So why don't you share with us your experience with Telescope the last few weeks as you've learned to develop on it?
Yeah. So hi, I'm Andrew. Yeah, I've been digging into Telescope, into the inner workings of it, to see all the different pieces. And essentially, like if you watch the video, you'll see that there's basically four main things. So you need a picker, a finder, a sorter, and then something to configure your actions. And that's it. Then you just like piece those together. There's some more complexity. So like there's other things called previewers and entry makers. So hopefully we can get into some of that because I haven't really scratched the surface on either of those. But whenever you get into more complexity, then you need to do those more complex things. But I think TJ DeVries is the one that is in charge of Telescope, and he's done a really awesome job. We can maybe look at the architecture diagram because it's more involved than I thought it would be. It has a lot going on and a lot of different components and pieces that are split out so that you can extend it kind of however you want. So there's already a ton of extensions, and I actually put together a little extension to do some of the colors, like the color scheme stuff. So that's built in, but I wanted to have it be persistent, and so I kind of got that working and then have it persisted so that you can select a color and it stays instead of going away each time you quit Neovim.
Yeah, that makes sense. I have not heard about this diagram, so I need to find it.
Yeah.
Where does it live?
In the docs. So if you do like
Okay.
H, it's talked about in the developers.md on the Telescope GitHub.
Got
But
it.
if you do, I think it's like H and then Telescope something, then it'll show you this little ASCII diagram of the architecture, which is kind of cool. Like I haven't grokked all of it quite yet, but there's a lot going on, more than I thought there would be.
I see showcase. I see here. Can you see what I see? Let's pull this up.
Yeah, go to should be like developers. If you go to code,
Oh, it's in code. I got misled.
And then if you look for like developers.md.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, and then
so he's like describes it. Yeah. I can show you how far I've come along with my plugin. I kind of want to show you my idea, and you can tell me what you think of it as we talk about it more. But okay, so there's some ASCII. Well, there is some good ways to place Lua code, which I have seen.
Yeah, it's not captured in this, but if you look for H:H something.
Oh, I see.
That one right there.
That's what you meant. Yeah.
Yeah. So if you crack that open in the terminal in Neovim,
so they
right there.
That's cool.
Like that's more than I thought. Like there's entry maker, a sorter, an entry manager, all kinds of stuff. So more than the 4 things I listed.
Well designed, yeah. Well designed. It's definitely complex, but that comes with the opportunity to create really unique and helpful tools. Do you have like a favorite telescope tool that you use by default right now?
That's a good question. Octo's definitely high up on that list. I've been doing a lot with that in PRs. It's just so nice to open it. Like, usually you have to go into the GitHub UI and then find everything that you're doing, let it load, and it's just nice to open that in your editor and find it. So Octo's high on my list. There's one that I am liking. It's called Advanced Git Search, and it lets you get the history on a certain file really quickly. You can search for it and find it. That one's also pretty high up there.
I've seen that one. It looks helpful in some cases. I use LazyGit, so I do a lot of my Git grokking and like the work that I need to do related to Git all in that space. But cool. No, I've heard good things about it. And did you do anything with algorithms or with defaults that you've created? Anything that's like more helpful? Or I don't know how far down the rabbit hole you've gone.
Like with extensions or generally?
Generally.
Ooh. So I'll say this. I use Postman a lot in my day-to-day work, and I really don't like that UI.
Oh man.
So like I want to make like either it's a Neovim plugin or some extension so that I don't have to use that UI.
Yeah,
That's
that would
my
be worth. I
mission.
mean, you could do it all with the terminal for sure, but
Yeah.
there's definitely loss of efficiency.
Mhm.
Postman just came to VS Code, so that was exciting for the VS Code people. But I can share a little bit about, I guess, the rabbit hole that I've gone into.
Yeah, let's hear it.
All right, so cool. And those that have questions, let me jump back to chat. Ask questions about Telescope or Neovim. Like, we're here to have a conversation. So if you're hanging out, I see that a few more people have joined, which is exciting. So say hi in chat. Let us know if you have questions. But let's see. We're going to do a little bit of this. So I have a good amount of things now in my Telescope. Harpoon, of course, is everybody's favorite. This is like a way to get to files like really accurately. Like if you have like I think of them like as staging files. So like there's specific files I'm working with. There's ones for Tailwind that's pretty clever. There's one for your yank clipboard. So everything you've ever yanked can live inside of a Telescope prompt, which can be kind of crazy and helpful. I don't think I can show you guys that one because there's some sensitive stuff in that I've yanked over time. Undo history can be tracked and viewed through Telescope. This import one is new, and I think this one's actually super cool. Let's go to I can go to my website and show you this one. So let's go to TS file. So if I want to import something, Telescope imports, Telescope. I haven't used it much yet. It groks your whole project, and it looks for all the imports you've already used, and it gives you this fuzzy kind of search. It's like icons. Maybe there's an icon that I want to import or config, right? And so you choose that, and then boom, that import goes into your file. So that one's really cool. That one's one I plan to use more of. I thought that was an interesting recent addition that I just added just a week ago or two. The Tailwind one I can show. Telescope, Tailwind, Telescope. And so you can then see I want to look at the grid. And oh boy, it's not working perfectly right now, is it? I have had it working in the past though. That's sort of the fun here, right? With this, all these cutting edge plugins. But the two that I think are worth calling out right now before we go into mine is FC native or ZF native, sorry, and all recent. And so the first one, let's just go to ZF native. This one basically changes the sorting method, and it prioritizes the file path. So it let's say I'm here and I want to go to the tree sitter file. If I type tree sitter, it does a very good job at looking at, okay, you are probably looking at a file called tree sitter. We don't want to fuzzy. I have found fuzzy to be really lazy, where it'll be oh, there's a T here and there's an R here and there's a couple of E's here, and it'll give you some result that's not that accurate. And so that's one that I've been using a lot that I really, really like how that's different. Same with let's go to my Tmux, right? And so Tmux, it shows it a lot more. I don't know. It just is better at matching. It's an algorithm, and from what I can tell, it basically integrates into all of Telescope. We were talking about that sort of high level architecture. So it's one of those things that when you put it in, it overwrites the default behavior. And look here, you can overwrite it in specific cases. And it's not the only one. There's a couple other algorithms you can pick from. You don't have to pick from just the generic. I think it's just fuzzy. FCF might be the default. I don't remember exactly what default behavior.
I want to say FD is probably the default.
FD, okay. Well, FD will do the file lookup, but the actual algorithm in which it detects how to match the result is what we're talking about here. anyway, it's super nerdy. It's super low level, but when you pick one that you like, it does improve the experience. And then the second one that I really like, and so shout out to Dolev. Dolev is the guy who makes the GH Dash project. If you don't know about this one's super cool. He showed me this one, and basically what it does is all of my results are sorted by what I last touched. And so Telescope, of course, being the last thing I opened, is the first result. And if I were to open something else like Octo, and we close it, we'll see that lazy, and I think Octo, I forget how it decides to bring itself back up. I think I have to modify it. All right. And it doesn't show up when it's the current file. It brings itself up to the top. And so the files you're using the most often are what show up first in the sort. And so this one also has been super helpful. Most of the time I end up opening find files, and the first entry is the file I want, because most of the time I'm reaching for files, I'm going back to the same files over and over when I'm working. And so yeah, those are kind of the things that have been interesting to me right now. You can see here I've repositioned things to the top, and I've adjusted the vertical spacing, and I've added some ignore patterns, and I've overwritten some symbols, which we were talking about. And then my grep arguments, I specifically asked for rip grep, and I passed in some values that are going to be helpful to me. And there's a few more of these that I've just kind of picked an icon that fits. Command history, get files. And so, yeah. And then down here, you have to configure ZF native. And so, yeah, that's what I'm doing with Telescope. I don't know if you want to show off your Telescope, or if you want to maybe share and tell us more about what you were recently making. I know you designed your own Telescope extension recently. So if you want to show that off a little, you can. We've got some time.
Yeah, let's do it. Let me grab that. Here, I'll share my screen real quick. There we go. Let me move this to the other window real quick before I... All right. Yeah, so let's see. This is the... Here, I'll make this a little bigger here.
Here, let me get you shared.
Awesome. Yeah, so this is the color picker I've been messing around with and did the video on. So generally the structure you want whenever you want to bundle these is you have a Lua directory and then the name of whatever your extension is. So for this one, it's Telescope Color Picker. And then this has an init Lua, and this is where all the code is. So we go back and go into this other directory, which is kind of how it gets loaded into Telescope. You do Telescope and then _ extensions. And then this naming is kind of important. So if you name it whatever it is, so this matches, oops, close that. This matches the method that I want to export. And so in here, I pulled this out into a function, and you see these names match. So what that allows me to do, if I do Telescope and colors, then it'll execute and I can go up and down into whatever the colors are and then fuzzy match and like have it work. So if I don't name it that way, then I have to do a much longer version, which is similar to something like this, which I didn't quite grok the first time I built this. And so if you don't name it the same, then you have to do like Telescope, and then it would be Telescope.
Yeah, you have to like resolve the path
picture
to get
and
to
then
it.
colors. Yeah.
Yeah, that's
So
annoying.
everybody does this little shorthand to where you can just say telescope and then whatever the thing is, and you do that with naming it well. So you name this file, that thing, and then in the init Lua, that's the function right here.
Colors. And then I think when you go to register it, you end up registering it under the same name, right? In the config. Yeah.
Yep.
So we were looking at mine, and I had telescope load extension, and you have to name it, and the name is determined by the developer who makes the plugin, and they all sort of have to line up. Yeah, colors. So you have to line it all up when you go to load it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And so if we look at this guy, let me change my color scheme back a little bit. Oops. Didn't want to autocomplete for me. Nope. It wants to stay light themed for some reason.
No dark theme for you.
Right?
Oh,
what? So we have our actions and then the pickers, finders, sorters. These are just a couple of functions, and basically I grab like the installed colors and get that through this completion. So if you do like color and like complete, that's what this is doing for you.
Completion's like built into Vim as a mechanism you can use. Yeah. Very cool.
Then nothing crazy, just grab the generic sorter. One of the things that I highlight in the video, and I got from that developers MD doc, is overriding the select default. And if you do that, then whenever somebody uses your extension, they can not have to remap the things over again. So let's say like somebody mapped carriage returner enter and they want to change it to something else, they would have to like explicitly unmap one and remap the other one because it's the default. So this lets you do that in a much more configurable way, which is nice.
It just feels right? It's like select default is the action. It doesn't really matter what keyboard thing drives it. Maybe it's not even a keyboard, right? Maybe it's the mouse. Maybe it's spoken. Maybe maybe it's something else. So yeah, that's cool. That's something I didn't realize, but so far in my telescope extension development experience so far, I probably just a few hours total on doing it so far. And in my experience so far, there's a lot of built-in mechanisms that you can just kind of reach for, like you were doing here with get generic fuzzy sorter. It's like you could just give it functions that are already made by other developers, and you can get quite far with it. But I'll talk about my idea in a few minutes, and it's a new challenge is what I'll say. It's like this thing that I'm like, no one's done this yet. Is that on purpose, or am I, trying to do something that might not be, super easy with Telescope? But this is cool. No, it's always fun to look at people's dot files and see what they're doing. Anything special here? You did a lot of key mappings.
I did a lot of key mappings. I try to keep like this is the telescope file, and so I put all the telescope mappings into here. You see like the advanced git search one.
Yeah, totally.
This is really nice. I mean, again, this is kind of built in to get the symbols. So like if you do like FS, it'll show you. It's not as nice here. Like if we went to somewhere that let's see, what folder am I in here? There we go.
So we
go to.
We have a good question while you're exploring that.
Yeah.
What telescope commands does Vim grep arguments affect? Yeah. So from my experience, I use live grep almost exclusively, and so it definitely affects that. I think it affects grep string, but I don't have the answer for that. Do you know?
Vim grep arguments. I don't know offhand.
Okay. Yeah, it's just a way that you can overwrite some configuration options on Telescope. I use live grep, so I know for sure it impacts that. but we could read the source code. I've been reading a lot of source code lately, and Lua is becoming easier and easier. So maybe when we go and explore that, we'll see some more answers.
Yeah, and I was going to take a peek in here. So like this is the extension I just built.
Colors.
And then we have the live grep stuff.
Advanced Git search, that one you told us about.
Which this is that search. So I can look at all the commits in this file and see,
That's cool.
What's going on with it. Normal telescope bindings, so like, control U up, control D down. I've never gotten it to actually scroll left and right. I don't know if you've ever gotten that to work.
I haven't figured that out yet.
Yeah. And then
looks like it's wrapping though.
Undo. Yeah.
Neoclip. So you're giving Neoclip a try too. I don't know if you like it so far, but it's interesting to say the least.
I like it.
I just forget it's there.
Yeah, like whenever it in my workflow, whenever I copy something or delete something and it goes into my register and I don't mean for it to, that's whenever I use it.
So I'm like, you're like, I lost it. No. You're like, well, I didn't lose it permanently. Yeah,
exactly. The Zoxide one, I haven't used that one as much.
Yeah.
But definitely that's here. Like I kind of switched to this picker, which is yours, the session manager. Like I use this way more than the Zoxide stuff. This thing's awesome. I love this.
You got a double box going on though.
I do. I wonder if that's just like because it's so zoomed in, maybe.
I don't know how it's triggered, but that's funny.
Yeah, for some reason doing a double box. We'll have to check that.
It's all good.
But yeah, I don't have a ton. I use FCF.
Yeah.
To get that.
Yep. So FCF. Oh, okay. So you have to add it in. So FCF is something you opted in for. We had another question related to the live grep, and from what I know, it's fuzzy, but I did add an extension that gives me fuzzy matching. So I don't know by default if it comes fuzzy or not, or if you have to add a tool like Fuzzy Finder to Telescope in order to get that. So something to experiment with for sure.
I think it is fuzzy. So one of the things that, which one of these? I think it was this one, the live grep args. I'll have to look at it. But if you do this search, then a lot of times what I find myself doing is I want to find some string and I want to find it in like, some .lua files or something. Well, that extension lets you do that. It's a little bit of a long syntax, but you basically wrap it in quotes, and it has like little keyboard shortcuts to do that. And then you do like a dot, something like this. So like if we had like function, we wanted to look in .lua files, then we could do that. But if it was .md, then we don't find any because we don't have any in there. Right. So that's where that extension, the live grep args one, is in my workflow for when I'm narrowing down to a specific set of files or like a specific directory. Like if I wanted to find this inside of Harpoon, then I could narrow it down that way.
Right.
Which is nice.
I've been meaning to get better because okay, so David's saying live grep defaults to rip grep. That's good to know. Okay. Rip grep's awesome. Everybody should be using rip grep. It's a binary. It's just like better version of grep. I want to do more of this where it's like I'm going to look something up and I know that it's in a Lua file and I know it's in this directory, and so rather than trying to like play around with my tmux or something, I can just sort of be better at adding grep stuff. So I'm going to play around with this for sure. I made a note to like go and play with this a little bit more. Very cool.
Yep.
Let's see. So should we talk about my idea?
Let's do it.
I think it's a really good idea, but I think that there's a lot of work ahead of me. So I will just sort of pull this up. Smart go to. So it lives. It doesn't do anything yet. Yeah, it doesn't do anything yet, but this is the idea. Let's see, I gotta share my screen. Ooh, we got Inception. All right, so basically what I wanna do is smart go to. I want to like show lots of files all in one place. So I want like Harpoon files to be listed first. I want buffers to be listed next. I want like Git diffs to be listed next. And then I want like all other files from project, you know, maybe by most recent. So my thought is when I do this, I don't want to find files. I want a sort of all-in-one, kind of like Raycast, where Raycast like has everything you might ever want.
Yep.
And in Raycast, you can sort it. You can sort these things by like what is most useful to you contextually. And so my idea is that I want to like merge multiple Telescope data into one global, one hot keyboard shortcut. I hit Command P. Everybody loves Command P. So I hit Command P and I see find files, but I want like everything to be shown here in order and labeled. So I like know, oh, hey, that's the Harpoon. That's an open buffer. That's these. And then the rest of these are the files that have been changed. And so like, even with the files changed, like this all gets mixed and matched. So there may be a Harpoon file that's open. That is a buffer that is got some Git diffs on it, right? And so like I have to be able to pull in all of those pieces of data and then like normalize them so that they all are accurate, and then sort them, and then try my best to like not have duplicates. Like I wouldn't want the same file listed 4 times if it fit all 4 of these categories. I would just want it to be shown once. So that's sort of the idea. But I think it's going to be quite a bit of an ask because I don't think too many people have like mixed data types in this kind of fashion. So that's where my head's at right now.
Yeah, where's the Harpoon stuff stored? Like how does that get captured?
It's all in Lua, and then they have functions that allow you to fetch. They call them marks. So Harpoon makes marks, and you can fetch those marks. And speaking of, so let's go back. I'll go back out a little. Harpoon. So in Harpoon, there is an extension that's initiated, but then Telescope here. Oh, that's where we just were. Let's go here. Marks. It prepares it by fetching here. Prepare results. It does a Harpoon Git mark config marks. So this is how it's pulled in. And I think you were asking about this. So this is the time I've spent with a Telescope some is like you can create entry makers, and these are unique line items that you can style and format. And you can add separators, you can create fixed widths depending on what you're doing. And this has quite a bit of, I don't know if I can go to definition here, but you can do a lot with this. And then to make display, you have to pass the displayer, and the displayer takes in an index and each line that you've generated.
My understanding of it is it's a way to separate the display from the underlying thing that you're opening. So like you can format it and rearrange it however you want.
Yep.
And then whenever you select it, then it will go and open a file or something, whatever you need it to do.
Yep. That's the idea. And here they just add an entry of file name. And so file name is stored on the entry from whatever Harpoon is pulling. And the thing that they're pulling in just binds it to the file name. But they have a couple of custom functions here, like deleting the Harpoon mark. So this is like not dealing with the file, but dealing with Harpoon itself. So you can delete the Harpoon mark. You can get, you can move the marks up and down. And so we'll just mark this. And so this is Harpoon by default. Like it's this little screen, and you can edit these to change the order. But if you do telescope Harpoon, is it Harpoon? Harpoon, yes. I don't even use this one. All right, well, we're getting
I was going to
errors.
say, I don't think I have
I must have
Harpoon
something else going
installed
on.
through Telescope. I have it installed just as a plugin.
Yeah, so you have to like explicitly add it to Telescope if you want to use it. But maybe this is the issue I was having. I remember earlier someone was talking about it or wondering what the error was, and this is kind of what we're seeing. So there's some sort of Telescope command file that returning nil. So maybe Telescope updated itself and Harpoon hasn't updated, everything to work with it, which we could always sync these up if we wanted. Interesting. But so this is kind of my entry point, is like, okay, I need to prepare results. This becomes way more complicated. This becomes get harpoons, get buffers, get diffs, get these, and then cross-reference everything and filter and sort it out. And the question will be like, is this going to be performant? I don't know. What areas there's going to be bottlenecks, but to get a harpoon, to get buffers and get diffs, all of these, they already sort of have telescope. There's telescope extensions that can do this already. And so
you just all one in one.
Yeah, I want this to become super, super useful, which at this point, it just sort of takes you to where you want to go. Doesn't necessarily give you an idea of, I guess if you like do the buffer one, this is the buffer one. That one can be useful.
There's a get commits one too.
And there's a get commits one. I think there's a get diff one, isn't there? Telescope, get
there's like
status.
B commits.
Yeah, get status. So get status tells you these are the files, right? And so they all exist. Like all these features already live, on their own. And the idea of putting them together, to me, just feels like I would be just soaring. Like I would be able to get to everything I want much more quickly, and I'd get a high level view of my project. I could see like, oh yeah, I have to deal with these files, or I have to, whatever. And then beyond that, I could add key mappings to this sort of global telescope guy. So I could like hit key bindings to interact with these elements in different ways. So that's what's on my mind. I think I'm just going to kind of chip away at this. The MVP might be to just get like one or two of these things to work together, and then try to add the next one and design the plugin in a way that it lets people reach for what they want. So if they don't want Harpoon, maybe they just don't enable that feature. And if they don't want get diffs, they don't have to enable that feature. And then maybe other devs could add, your favorite plugin. Maybe one that I'm not even thinking about could be extended to this if I create a normalized pattern. That's the idea anyway.
Yeah. I'm trying to think of, like, there's not a way that you could call all of those existing functions, right? Like, I don't know. I guess you could certainly do like a vim command. Well, I don't know. I don't think that you could, but I'm not 100% sure.
Well, all of it, you can definitely do all of this independently. The trick for me is like, I think like with buffers, there's a lot of sort of abstracted code on Telescope that's just doing specifically buffers, and it maybe wasn't invented to be like, let me pull out the buffers and use them in Telescope, but not in the Telescope window that's for buffers, but just in some other place. Like that's not, at this point, what I've seen, it's not how it was designed. So I have to sort of peel the layers back and figure out, like, is there a specific piece here that will get me kind of the raw output that I want? And you're right, I could probably do all of this with, I think you shouted it out, the like generic terminal output. Easy pick, yeah. So easy pick, once you shared that, I was like, oh, hey, maybe I just do that. Maybe I just like, because I know how to get get diffs with the command line. I know how to fetch files for a project with the command line. Like, and I'm pretty sure you can run you may be able to run Lua code and tell Vim that you want to output it to a terminal buffer. Like that may be possible. But the only issue I'm going to run into here real quickly is like buffers and Harpoon in particular are really specific usually to the currently running Neovim instance, especially buffers. So I'm going to have to stick to as much contextualization as I can so that I'm not like doing too much of this outside of Vimland. So yeah, that's the idea. I was going to kind of hack away at this maybe a bit today, or we can talk about something else, or we can expand on your idea, but definitely ask more questions in chat. I would love for you guys to ask me more about this stuff if you want to know. And of course, I'll open the field to any sort of terminal stuff or developer stuff. If there's some generic advice you'd like, let us know. But what do you feel like doing? We can play around for a little while.
Yeah, let's do some hacking. I want to write some code.
Do you want me to drive? A good old pair programming moment?
Sure.
All right, let's do it. So from what I can tell, I just have to sort of start breaking all this down piece by piece. The go-to file itself, I think right now I have multiple files here. I have to do some cleanup on the files for sure. And you see I've sort of been playing around with it. So like I originally did this works, smart go-to. It doesn't display anything right now. And then the other one, I think it's go-to, displays emojis. So I basically copied over someone's source code on how they did this. Because I was kind of thinking like maybe the first column is the file, the second column like identifies pieces. That was my thought. But the main trick now is to normalize this stuff. And so actions are different per file type. No, actually, I guess they're not. Everything is going to just open a file. So we're going to actually open up Telescope source code too, because I've been looking at Buffer Previewer as one example. And so they have the defaulter. It passes a lot of things through, which is good. And I think I would want to be able to do that. And it has splits. It has color hash, which is interesting. So it's deciding on some ways to render colors. And let's see, maybe we have more than one file open. Find files. Find files spec. So like when you have multiple things open, you have the buff number, and then there's a sort of special symbol that I've been trying to make sense of. But what I really like is this sort of smart path where it detects the file icon, and then it usually ends up truncating the front of the file, and it tries to get you to the end. So maybe we zoom out a little, yeah. And so it'll be like, hey, up to this point, it shows me kind of the placement, and then the column number is also shown. So these are all really great things that I think would just work out really well if I could have those features work across the board. And so file preview, that one's pretty straightforward. It does some file type stuff. And then we go down further, file maker. This has to do with how it decides to do, like, it has tree setter options being passed. It detects the file type. If it's a directory, it knows to handle the directory preview. If it's a file, it does a handle file preview. And handle file preview is sort of its own thing. And so there's a lot of code here. You know, there's a lot going on. A lot of it makes sense to me, but a lot of it is like, hey, I'm going to take an option and pass in some logic conditionally based off of the options passed. And so there's quite a lot of code here, and not all of it is like the minimum viable pieces.
Oh yeah, yeah.
You
There's
know, it's
definitely
like,
a lot of
yeah,
configuration here.
yeah. So there's a lot of that. And let's see if I can find the obvious entry point. Previewer. And if you want to remind me of Smart Go To, we have the actual plugin. We have the action, which is on the setup, and then the module itself creates a displayer and a picker and the sorter and the finder, and you attach all that together and then you return it, right?
Yep.
So pickers. So this is kind of the biggest thing here is you have to create the picker, give it a name, give it a sorter, give it a finder, and the finder in this case was overloaded with emoji results. And then you have your mappings attached. And so that's what kind of connects this. We called it search, right? So search gets defined down here, search. And I just used a key. It was interesting, you were talking about earlier having to name it a certain thing, but I just gave it a key. And that key is what I end up having to use when I call it.
Yes, how do you call it?
So
What's the
it's
command
just
to call it?
telescope smart go to, and that smart go to matches this key that I'm exporting. Which I don't know if key is the right name, but that's the word I use in JavaScript. So this table, like the key of the table entry, and that's what returns the value. So I can name this whatever. We can do.
What is search?
Search is just the local function.
Okay.
This is the local function that creates the picker.
Yeah, so if search was in a table, then you'd have to do the nested thing. But because it's at that same level, you don't have to do that nesting.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah. So this is just a local function on this module. Yeah. And so now it's a lot of like, I need to design this to be a little bit more abstract. And I don't think I should design all of it at once. So I started with this finder picker. I sort of separated. And entry maker, I was trying to work out, displayer is not a word. I was trying to work out how to best work on this. And so you can see I'm right now playing with Harpoon marks. So if I mark this, and I mark this, and I mark this, we'll see 3 elements here. And if we do my telescope smart go to, it shows me the 3 entries, and it uses the little hook to say that it's Harpoon. And it lists them as 1, 2, 3, because these are the positions in Harpoon, and then the files. So the files aren't doing the icons, and they're not smart. But what I noticed is if I do, maybe this will work now. Okay, so their Harpoon doesn't work, but mine does, which is interesting. Let's just do that again. I want the like icon color, and I want the smart directory thing. And that's where it started to become this placement where I was like, how do I pull that out of the source code? You know, so like telescope is doing it somehow. And
well, what is Harpoon doing with the entry maker? Because I'm sure that's probably setting a lot of display things and overriding that behavior.
Right. I don't know how much of this is. It looks like there's a gen. I just saw it, but now it's just a matter of Buffy previewer.
Yeah, so your previewer will be like in that preview window, like if you're looking at the file, that's what all the previewer stuff is.
Okay. So then path from entry path. So this gets me the buffer, and then from entry. Buffer previewer maker. So this is some conf. And this is where I was talking about earlier. It's like I get a little lost because it's like, okay, conf is just generic thing that isn't really typed. I guess we'll go to all these references. It's just this like thing that lives and is big. So maybe there's more of this. Brief buffer maker. Buffer preview maker. That might be something. Buffer previewer maker. So some of this comes from config, but then internally,
yeah, so my guess is that is doing some things to get the file path so it can preview the file on the right side and show it with like trees that are highlighting.
Right. So preview maker might not be the right thing to be looking for.
I think it's like entry maker or something like that we probably want to look at. Because that previewer is using the entry, but we want to see how that entry is being made.
There's file maker.
That looks like a specific previewer.
Transform path. Okay, let's give that a go. So this is how we transform the path, and we create a path display. Oh yeah, I mean, this is helpful. Thanks, David. So it's deciding kind of how to put everything together and how to shorten it. So this is all the cool stuff that I was looking at. So I could just pass transform path, can't I? So if I wanted to look at like buffer transform path, I still think there's a lot of layers of sort of indirect abstraction. Yeah, indirect abstraction. So let's see, can we see where this is? Entry maker. So this is a make entry file. Maybe we take a closer look at entry maker file. Each picker has a finder made up of two parts. Right, entry makers. So we can get file name function, set default entry MT, and I actually have, look at this. We can look at all the things.
Oh yeah.
So I was spending some time with like generate entry maker from, like, this is something I was looking at. So this, why did it put me here? This isn't what I was looking for. Make buffer, generate from buffer. So here's kind of what we're looking for. This is actually probably exactly what I want. So from a buffer, specifically, they do all the icon checks, which I wanted to do. It looks for the current working directory, and then it makes the display based off of the entry. So these are entries that are coming in buff number width, icon width. Right, and then it does this display name and transforms the path, and it gets the dev icon. So boom.
Yeah, this seems like a thing we want.
And David's saying like, hey, we probably could read all of what's up there to get a full sense of what's going on and how it works. So it's good to see that it is well documented. So now the thing I'm thinking about is, do I want to like, are these exported somehow? Like there's even Git specific stuff talked about. So they generate from Git status. So the idea now is, can I like, does this actually do the fetching? That's my question. I know that this is displaying the maker. But like in this case, options comes in. It creates the entry maker. This is just the displayer. The entry gets passed in. Make display lives on gen from buffer. So now the question is like, I'll go to the top here. This is a buffer picker, and the results are buffer, and buffer comes from, oh, that wasn't what I wanted. Go to definition, buffer starts here, and look at that. We were just talking about this, weren't we? So it's just calling Vim functions to get the buffers. And look at that, get buffer info from buff number. So this is some generic function that we can call to get buff info from the buffer number. And this up here looks like some sort of loop that was like, hey, go and fetch all the buff numbers. So this is a great start. And this is internal buffers is how they've defined this. And all these options. So this is where you could help me chat and or don't, as David says. Yeah, I will spend more time reading this. I don't think on stream I'm going to read all of these in depth. I like reading code first, but I totally get. He's laughing at us a little bit. My question. Just read it. Just read the documentation. Why don't we do that more? Okay, so here's some real talk. If I was to design this, it would probably make sense that all of the Telescope buffer rules would be applied to my plugin, right? Like that. Those are the kinds of things that I start to see this sort of start to explode. Where it's like, if buffers have all these custom options, do I make sure that they're available in my extension, or do I just sort of rip the most basic version out and then maybe add it later? Is like, in my mind right now, what I'm thinking would be the most sane thing to do. Otherwise, it feels like it might take like days just to get all of buffers options all to play nice with my plugin, right? Maybe that's not the case once I do it, but that's the current worry as I try to merge these things together.
I mean, it's certainly Telescope didn't start out with all those different options, so probably fine to have a very narrow MVP and then add more options as you go.
Well, and I guess I need to just start pulling out the pieces, because they're not all the entries in my display maker. They're not all going to be buffers. They're not all going to have buffer numbers. They're not all going to be, they're all going to be files. And that's about the only thing that these things will have in common.
Right.
And that's kind of the place I need to start. So I guess we just start. Let's see. So buffer. This is the previewer. So I think the win for me today is if I can pull buffers and pull Harpoon entries and render both in the same Telescope picker. That's sort of my first thought in how I would break this down. So I've already done the first. Go smart, go to, and we don't have any Harpoon entries in here, so we'll add some. And bonus points will be getting the icon and the file to look nice, but that doesn't really matter to me first. So then let's just do it. So we will, I got to start figuring out how I'm going to organize these. So I might just remove all this extra code. Smart underscore go to. All right. So that's step one. And then right now I have the finder prepare the results. I guess I'm not using make entry anymore. I'm just doing the displayer and passing these values in. And it takes a file name. That's kind of the big one.
Yep.
And then the actual hook, I just added as a prefix. So that I might need to decide. Gets conditionally rendered, perhaps? All right. And the hardest part here, and I don't really know how this function works yet, is the results on the new table. So when you create a finder table, you have to give this results. So this is to do get buffers. We've already gotten marks, merge, and normalize. Or I guess we're gonna merge and normalize them somehow.
Yep.
So it's one of those things that like get Harpoon results, and this is a prepare results. So this is code I copied over from Harpoon because they took this and they said like they did some conditional logic that needed to be done. And I need to learn the debugger. I don't know. Have you used Lewis debugger tools at all?
I really haven't. I was gonna ask you because like I've tried to, like in messing with the extension, like even just like printing things out, I was like, this isn't showing anywhere. Help.
Yeah. No, I get it. So we're gonna probably name this prepare Harpoon results because it doesn't really make sense to we'll do that. Get Harpoon results, get buffer results, and then we're gonna prepare. All right, so these end up getting returned as a table insert by the way in which it was defined.
Is that just like checking for empty, like so that nothing, you don't like add things into the table whenever it's empty, like the empty file name?
Yes, and I think it does some sort of matching on the index to the file name. See how it sets file name and index, and then it inserts it onto the table, and then it takes.
That must be so that whenever you reorder them, it remaps it correctly.
Right. Right. So when you change the order of these things, you have to make sure that you're positioning it based off of the index. It's mostly, this is the most important piece of it, is that it's just trying to create a table that can be properly used by Telescope.
Agreed.
And so then preparing buffer results, I guess if we go back here and we try to figure out exactly how they fetched.
Should be a Vim command, right? Like, I don't know. I could guess Vim API buffers or something. Wherever it was getting the buffer number, like was that in a function or was that a Vim command?
Get buffer number by buff name. So this buff name table. All right, so we start up here. Get buff number by buff name, set buff num. This is doing some sort of deletion on itself. Get win buff, preview win ID. Get buffer by name from entry path. Buff view preview make. So this is the actual making of it. So somewhere in here is code that says, and the other way we could do it is, how do I get all the current buffers using Lua and Neovim? So this NVim list buffers
Yeah.
is very close to what you were guessing. And the internals do that. So, I mean, at the very least, the question is, can I like... Is this an actual function that gets called? That's the question. What does it say? It says, yeah, so it's a function.
And then whenever it loops over it, does that I pairs. So like I guess the prepare results already does that?
Right. Last used, interesting. It does a table sort. Most recent use. I like that. I need to turn that on. Even if I don't get this fully integrated on my side, I want this. But what is all of this? So this is a filter. So it's going to read a bunch of this. And this is like internal buffer function. I don't know if we can actually reuse this aside from copying and pasting it, but it's going to sort and create a buff numbers table. So this buff numbers table, where did it start? Go to definition. It's the filterable function. Oh, okay, interesting. So it's like this is the thing that gets it all.
Yep.
And then it knows something about this. Traverse all fields of the table. All right, and then most option recent. This just sorts it. So if table sort already exists, then we could just call it. All right, so let's just see what happens, I guess. I mean,
yeah,
I don't think it's going to fall apart. So get buffer results. So here I want to have these two things, and I forget the best way to do this. How do I merge two new tables? I've already done this a few times. So you can move one into the other.
I would not have guessed that API.
Copy elements from table 1 to merge table, copy elements from table 2 to merge table. This feels like a lot. Let's see if ChatGPT is just not the most helpful. Oh, my eyes.
Flashbang.
Oh no, I'm sorry, chat. I'm so sorry. Yeah, so I know you can like unpack tables. It's just an API I don't use a lot, and I'm getting a lot better though. But you know, like our moments like today, I'm sure that there's a way to merge them as well. So I have these two that are prepared. Deep extend. Yeah, but that's like isn't that Vim scripty stuff? Maybe it's not. Maybe I'm making stuff up. I was hoping for a more Lua-like API. Oh, see, this is something they've done. They just say from here, take every entry and insert it into the other table.
Yep.
That would work. It's a convenience method. Okay, well, let's try it. We're going to trust David here. David, we need to bring you on stream, apparently. Let me know if you're interested in being on stream, but I appreciate your help so far. All right, so we'll give it a go. How do I copy this? Oh, I know how. So fun tip. I showed this last stream, Andrew, but I have a little tool that lets me create a cursor. And I can, this is like virtual text, right? So there's no way of copying it. I can select it with my mouse. And just like that, it gets put into the clipboard. So that one's super
nice.
handy.
What does that do?
It's called Shorter. And Shorter is very good at giving me, I can annotate screenshots. So that's what I use it for.
That's sweet.
And I can like label whatever. So this is the app that does that, but it has an additional feature, which is read OCR off text anywhere on any screen, which I do a lot on YouTube videos. I'm like, pause the YouTube video, and then I OCR it so I can get the text out. All right, so let's try the concat. I liked, there's this this Vim table deep extend. So merges recursively to, yeah, that's cool. So the behavior decide if a key is found on more than one map, and then you can pass as many tables as you want. So then I would just results. I mean, if this is what he's saying, this is what the doc says, we can keep for now. Actually, maybe we force, and then it's going to be, we want to do this. Thank you, chat. The Copilot is helping me here. All right, so then something like that should be valid. We got to add our comma back. All right, so now, Andrew, I need your help. What is the most simplest way to call this finder? I think I watched your video. There's some Lua something command.
Yeah, you should be able to do Lua file and then a %. Now, yeah, I'm curious.
But the way that I wrote this file, right, it's like, will that do it?
Let's see, what's the...
I've been like quitting. Oh no, look, I've already got an error.
Oh. Yeah, if you do that Lua file %, then you'll have to call the function at the very end. So instead of doing the return, you would do a whatever the name is and then call it.
Got it. All right. So we've got some files open. We've got some Harpoon results. Now Free Telescope. I'll probably bind this to something so we save ourselves some time. And we get our first error. Attempted to call global prepare buffer results. Oh. Did I not? Maybe I didn't write that correctly.
Yeah, maybe we don't have that function right now. Yeah, under Finder.
Yeah, so this is the sort of developer cycle that I wasn't sure about. Like, do I just reopen it? Telescope, smart, go to. Right, so wrong number of arguments. So it didn't put them together in the way that I thought they would. So this is my picker. And so it doesn't like the form factor of this element once it got created. So that's one of those things now that I'm like, this is going to be a table. This is going to be a table, I think.
Yeah, I'm not. Is there a way we should be able to run that if you do like a command and do Lua and then whatever that is, we should be able to see.
I think David's telling me that this isn't supposed to be a table of tables. It should just be as many arguments as I want.
That sounds right.
Sweet. All right, you're the man, David. Yeah, that's it. Yeah. All right. And we're going to go ahead and just like put this in the clipboard. Hey, it didn't break. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 elements here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay. So there's no, do I have any buffers open? Maybe I should open some buffers. What do you guys think?
Question. Maybe.
Maybe that would go somewhere. All right, so there we go. So it definitely is like, hey, what are you doing? So this guy is, it's all tied to the mark code now. Yeah, so that would, I guess, be expected, because if I'm down here and I'm tying this code to, where does it start? File name, row, column, make displayer. Is this display or something I did special? No. Is it my make display? No. I'm trying to remember exactly what it is. Maybe it's the actual registration of the picker. But there's going to be a piece of this that Harpoon is going to complain, because it's going to go, hey, you're trying to do something I can't do because couldn't find a valid file name to mark. Yeah, which I guess is expected. So it's under Finder. Let's just do a stack trace here. Harpoon, Finder 35.
Yeah, Finder 35.
So 35. File name row. Let's keep going. Attempting to index local entry. All right, so then it's trying to, we're not calling an index though. And then we want to entry maker. Yeah, entry maker. Generate smart code to Finder. That's 17. So that's part of this. But I'm preparing the results before I'm calling them.
Right.
Oh, but I know that every result gets passed through the make displayer and the entry maker. So there must be something I've tied to picker 14.
What is line? What is line? You can, inside of that entry maker, there's a line variable.
So yeah, so line should be the line that the Harpoon is marked.
See, that's probably it.
So then maybe there is no line. How was line even determined? Ordinal. This is the line. Well, I guess, we'll just do a little sanity check here, and we'll just say, like, if I force this and transform it, does it even work? That's the question. Because if I did that and it didn't work, then it's kind of not helpful. Yeah. Oh, it's wanting multiple arguments. Sure.
I think
I bet that is what it is, though. So we're thinking that there's one of these elements is line. Line comes from here, file name, row, call. I guess we should probably take a closer look back at the Vim code or the Telescope code and see buff number, flag, info. So this is how they are doing it. Oh, we didn't do this. We probably have to do this.
Right.
We have to do more than just list the buff numbers. There's not enough information here. So my thought is that we like borrow this code and that I somehow normalize this to look and feel similar to buffers. So results. So it's kind of like
a lot of stuff.
I know. This is what I was talking about, where it's like, how much of this are we going to be able to actually pull in? This is a local function. Was it ever exported? If it wasn't exported, then I don't think I can do it. All right. Buff numbers come from a filter, undefined filter. It's another internal thing. Oh, it's just this.
Yeah, we can take that.
And, you know, one of the thoughts here is, I always have issues with this. All right. Filter, buff listed. I don't care about spelling errors. And then there's some typing issues coming up like, hey, you can't do this. All right. And then I'm just going to go ahead and return buffers. Yeah, so the question will be like, how much of this can I keep? Which I guess the main ones I care about is, I really just care about getting these. And then on this buffer, we're going to create the flag. And the flag I probably will use. And then the element itself is, I believe, what ends up getting inserted, right? Buffers, and then you insert element. And this guy, if there's an IDX, so that's if this percentage sign, do you know much about buffers? What makes it a percent? Yeah, it's the percentage A. Is somehow describing what is the Vim buffer percent index symbol mean?
Yeah,
current.
I don't know what
so means. So that tells you the current. Well, we use percent all the time, so that must be what it is talking about. So this is the file I
showing.
have.
Yeah, what does it show in that view?
In what?
In that when we have Telescope open, is doing the percent %A.
Yeah.
What is that displaying?
So the percent is, it's the current file. The question now is, what would A mean? Right. So I'm guessing that this is an underlying mechanism to how buffers work, and it's pretty nerdy. I mean, we could just do
well,
buffers.
There's like the Vim.
And there's probably a lot to say here about if it's like active or inactive, or the last status of the file, or like that kind of stuff is what I'm guessing.
The percent is I believe it's a special register. So there's like a few of these special registers that you can grab. Percent is one. It's the current buffer. What are the other ones here? I'm gonna look real quick.
Dan's saying it's active, and then David's talking about like an alternative buffer. So maybe so we know these symbols mean things. All that really mattered today
Yeah.
is that I get enough details from this that I can normalize them. So this one is returning them as, it's not telling me what the structure is, which is why I kind of want to start playing around with the debugger protocol or find a way to dump logs. But percentage is like always the current buffer. We know that. I mean, that's what we use all the time in X mode. But the other symbols are definitely things to ask questions about. Okay, so we have line. So this is the entry index, and this is the symbol. So part of me is thinking that if we go up here, we can decide what we are putting in here. So value, ordinal, display, all number, call, file name. So make display, fine, that's easy. That's how we're going to render it. And we're going to have to normalize this to both entries. And then file name, call, row are all coming from Harpoon, and index is coming from Harpoon. So I'm gonna just kind of have to draw all of this out. And then line is defined up here in the entry maker. And this
That's
is
basically like your display, right?
This is this part of it. Yeah. So I already have, I don't know if this is going to work right now. Yeah, it's not going to work right now, but it creates the path basically. So like file name, colon, row, colon, column tells me where everything is. And this is where I really want to figure out how to do the smart one and pass it everything, and it like auto formats it and makes it pretty and gives me a colored icon. So that we're going to want to do. Can you tell I'm a JavaScript developer? I do the slashes. All right, so pass line into smart icon function, maybe. And then we want to, the displayer here, it lets me create sections on my item, or this is, I guess, the display entry. So the display entry now has 3 elements, and we can see that the first element is the little hook with the index name, and the second element is the file line, and the third entry is some sort of smart spacing, which is one that I've messed with a little bit so far. And so the question now is, and this is the part that got me a little bit confused. I've got this results, and results is all of the entries, both buffers and Harpoon entries.
Yep.
And then entry maker will loop through each. This is for each line, right? It makes every entry. And so this stuff is all just like boilerplatey stuff that I've done to kind of configure and customize it. And then the entry maker requires that you return a specific value and these positions, which I'm guessing is what is used when we do this is finder, new table, the actual picker.
Yeah, I have a question.
Yeah.
I don't know how the entries get into the entry maker. Do you understand that?
How do the entries get to like this?
Yeah, what is that? What is that entry?
It is a loop of each result. So every result gets passed through this. So
okay,
like result would probably be just as valuable, but result maker, I guess they didn't like that term. They went with entry maker. And I don't know why this isn't entries, but there's definitely a disconnect there, but that's what it is it's looping through all of these entries to find it, which is why we're getting our first error. which is that there's something from Harpoon. Is it Harpoon or?
Yeah, that's the part that's weird to me is we're getting a Harpoon error whenever we're doing the entry maker things, it seems like.
Yeah. And so part of me was thinking that I loop through all of them and I create just an additional table entry that is like entry.type, and entry.type will be Harpoon or buffer. And that's, I guess, the reasonable display, a reasonable pattern. Yeah, so that's the thought. All right, so we want to pass this in. We want to make each displayer change per type. And then all of this kind of stays the same as long as all of the files are the same. And so the first part is they are passing the file name. Where is it? The row and column. Where is it? Index. Okay. So I think what we were looking at earlier is the buffer name. The buffers must not be giving us an index, and that's probably what's throwing the error. So I think I really just need to, on all the buffers,
add an index?
Yeah. I don't know exactly. So this is called the flag. Here they actually have an index.
What is the element that we create? Is that the structure that we return in the buffers
Yeah.
thing? Like, could we add index to that element variable? And then it's buffer number? Yeah.
So it just becomes that instead. I can't spell. Redundancy. I'll get close. I'll get close. Don't worry, chat. I'm not paid to spell. And then we could do some Vim print stuff, says David. Yeah. So David, you're right. I mean, we probably should be doing something like this. The question is, where does it go? Where does the print go? So I'm going to spend the next few times that I do this project on like running the debugging protocol, because then I can just see everything as it goes through. We're working a little bit blindly here, and that's just me being new to this development cycle. So we need to open up a couple buffers, and we still have these open, and so attempting to index global ops.
It's a different error. Progress.
Probably from ops. So ops gets passed through. Ops. I thought that function has ops. So then we're just going to give it ops.
Yeah.
So it's like one of these things that Telescope will like automatically pass all of this stuff into the things as they're called. So we'll see if that is it. All right, so we're getting somewhere.
$31.
So in the filter, it didn't like that. It's at 26 on Finder. This filter thing that we came up with. We could get rid of a lot of this logic, I guess, but I don't.
Yeah, we're not doing anything with it right now.
We just want. I know that this isn't a great solution. But like this is all we care about today.
Yep.
If we can get all those other things in the future, that would be super cool, but picker. I also have this idea that I'm going to do soon where I can open up Vim with all of the git diffs automatically in one line. I already know the CLI command for it, but it's not in my workflow to like kill it and reopen it. So if anyone in chat has played around with that, let me know.
Like all the changes that you've made?
Right. So like all these files are the ones that have changed. So like, let's open all of these files. Right. That's the idea. So like open Vim and automatically open all of the diffs. And I've done it, but I just haven't put it in like an alias or something. All right. So this one, attempting to index local ops, so that we're still getting some sort of ops. It doesn't want me to play with ops. So ops comes from here. Ops comes from here. Maybe ops doesn't end up coming back to me. Although
yeah, we could set it like you do in the other place where it's you set it to an empty table if it's not there.
Yeah, let's do it. That was in the picker, I think.
Yeah, I think so.
All right, so just for fun, is it Finder? Yeah, we'll start up here, I guess. And we'll open up a file and we'll run this.
Okay.
Oh, right. So call isn't going to be there. And it probably, maybe it isn't called. So maybe the simpler thing to do would be, I need to delete this. I think it keeps trying to recreate it. Maybe we just say define like or. Is it or? I'm not doing this right.
I think it is, but you have to set it to. Yeah, there you go.
Okay.
Some
concatenate. Oh, I see. I think I kind of want to do this like local call equals entry call or 0.
Yeah, I like that.
And then all right.
Does buffer have row? It must if it's not blown up.
I mean, yeah, that's probably a good. Oop. Now we're getting a different value. Row. Hey, look at you. You just brought that up. So, I mean, we'll just, for now, we're just trying to get it to work first, right? And then we can play with it later. I want to normalize all this so that I'm not doing this sort of weird if this thing's then that do that thing kind of logic. I'm not a fan of procedural code when I can avoid it. I like more functional programming patterns.
Agreed.
When I can reach for them. Are we just gonna go through here till I have everything? Oh, okay. So I think my guess is that the buffer name isn't in a structure that matches what we were looking for. So then if we go back to telescope, well, we were in the buffers, right? This is internals.
Well, we never did we ever set file name on that element? Like we said,
that is the question. So we info got passed in. I don't know what info has, so I think we can Lua vim func get buff info.
Yeah, do get buff info and then give it 0 or 1? It's probably 1. It's Lua.
Okay. So then this is buff num came from what? Buff num came from here where we pulled all this out on buff numbers, and buff numbers was this guy. So we're just listing the buff numbers. This one's sorting the buff numbers. This one's detecting the flag by detecting what kind of symbols are being used on that. And then info. I need to be able to see the output of this code. So I think we just gotta learn. Yay, live coding. So Lua dap. I think they already have it in here. So I just need to add it. And then I need to figure out if I can run this file. Maybe we'll try moving the code so that I can run the file picker like you did. That might make sense.
If you put it all in the same file, it'd be a little bit easier.
My dogs are excited. So we might do that, but for now, we can just lazy Lua plugins. Cool. And one small step for Vimkind. That's fun.
I forget what that one does.
It's just an adapter for the language Lua server. So it's for the Lua language. So they're just being clever, which I like clever sometimes. Okay. So as we get distracted, so we'll do that. I think I just have to call it now. So I guess we can. You might just be able to call it. Yeah, I usually end up having to call a debug script. Like you trigger it with a launcher. And that's the part I haven't done before.
Do you have something like Neotest installed?
Yeah, I have Neotest. I could do unit tests, couldn't I?
I think you could.
What do you think, chat? Does Dan and David, do you guys have any, if you're still hanging out, do you have any good feedback on Lua debugging? Because I will become very productive if I know the output of this code. The moment I know the output, they talked about doing a Vim print. So we might as well give this a try and see what happens. It's very much a console loggy kind of thing, which, hey, you know, it's not the end of the world if we have to do that for now. So You do Vim print notify. Okay. Well, Vim notify, that's a good idea too. Like that one's a little bit more explicit. That might be something that goes to noise. Noise. So we want to Vim print next. I might just try notify. Do I have to stringify this? I bet it wants it stringified. Oh, all right. Give me a second.
You're good.
We have friends here. This is Millie. Say hi.
Hi, Millie.
They're playing. I have my other dog here. She's not quite able to be picked up. But it's just the three of us in the house right now. All right. We're having fun over here. Let's try this. No. Look at that.
That's cool.
I'll take it. It's better than nothing. So we have column, file name, index, row, and that's the thing that is being called by, thanks, David, Harpoon. So this is exactly what I wanted. I just want to know what the values are. The only thing I'll say about Lua is like, I don't love that it's very loosely typed. Like it's not a typed language like other typed languages I've worked with. It's one of those things that's just like kind of there if you want it, and it only has some. Yeah, isn't that cool that noise just kind of gives it to us? Anyway, I digress. I probably could be using types as well if I wanted to. All right, so we're going to print this. And then where are my buffers? These are all my buffers. These are the elements that I'm generating out of it. And then I return buffers, so we'll just buffers. That is not the same thing. All right. Oh. Stop. Yeah, so there's a bunch going on here. And I guess we just normalize it now that we have it. So buff number, flag, index, info, name. Here's name. That's probably file name.
Mm-hmm.
And then these groups. Oh, it gives us a bunch.
It's like everything in the. Is it the buffer?
It's like the whole buffer. It must be last used. That's interesting. Why don't we just take a few moments to look at this? Barbecue. Navic. Undo. Window. Okay, so it's just a bunch of like. I bet it's just that these plugins attach data to the buffer, which is great. I mean, that's super cool to see that I was talking about doing git diff stuff, and it looks like I probably could use git signs perhaps to integrate that feature. All right. So how do I for type definition for Lua?
Is it possible?
Yeah. So you can give it fields. You can call it a class and give it fields. So it's not a super strict thing. So person, how do I create a generic type without a function and then yeah, I mean, there's generics. I don't need to go that far. I guess we'll just create a code doc that tells me what this is. So we'll do something like this. So smart, go to entry, please. Thank you. So we have file name, we have index number. So I think the only thing that's super important here and that I'm going to have to play around with is like when I go to display it, the buffer doesn't show column number or line number because it's just a buffer.
Right.
Oh, L number. There is an L number here. So maybe column number is optional, or maybe I default it to 0 for buffers, which is
Yeah, you could do that.
fine. I didn't even realize that Harpoon could save itself down to the column position, which is cool to think about. But let's see. So we've got.
Yeah, I guess that's just how marks work too.
Column, and then index, and then field type string, and then can I buffer or Harpoon? Look at this. Look at Copilot go. All right, go Copilot go. And then I want to say a function returns a. I want to data transform. Let's see if they like give me person, new name, self, mutable, self, set, age. So this is an actual class. Have you used Lua classes much?
Not a whole lot.
Okay.
Mostly functions.
These are mostly tables. So in my mind right now, it's like I'm just sort of thinking of them like tables.
Yeah.
David, I'm curious if like you do this level of work, and like if so, do you like just everything's a table, it doesn't really matter, or do you like come up with something a bit more formal like a class? Yeah, so see, like if I'm going to do this, then I'm going to say, hey, just take this thing and return a new person. In my case, a new smart go-to entry. Yeah, I mean, we'll just, yeah, so the transformer is what I want. I want to add a Lua type that says I'm turning a table of person classes. Table string person. Yeah. So I guess I don't need to deal with types so much. Yeah, it's an object table underneath. Yeah, I figured. So the Lua class is just, it's similar to a JavaScript class, which is just an object. So everything is basically just a table, right, in this world.
Yep.
So then we just do it. So let's just do a better job at what I was starting with earlier.
I get the desire to want types though.
I love types. It tells me that my code is matching my definitions. All right, so then we will just transform each of these one at a time. It's almost the top of the hour. I'm going to start with Harpoon and normalize it. Excuse me. All right. And then there's got to be a better way to do this, but
with running it, you mean?
Like closing it and having to reopen it.
I mean, we could collapse it all into the picker file and then just run that file, and then it wouldn't, break on you and load every time.
All right, so that goes into here. So I have to register it last, right?
Actually, this is what file?
Extensions.
Yeah, don't even worry about here.
Oh.
Where's your picker file?
Smart go-to file.
Yeah. Go into your.
Oh,
Yeah, go
so
into
if I
picker.
combine these, is what you're saying.
Yes.
All right. So we combine these, and then we just say that we are running this at the end of things.
Exactly. So instead of returning a function,
Yeah.
make it a local picker or something, and then call picker at the very end.
So this returns just a function, and the function is what's generating the picker. But now I'm going to have to change how this works.
Mm-hmm.
Local finder.
Yeah.
Smart go to finder, and then the finder. It's like
Yeah,
that.
should be that. Mm-hmm.
And then I'm not pulling this in anymore.
Right.
And then I should be able to.
And I think you need to name like 118
Okay.
to also be a function.
It's a named function, not just an implicitly returned.
Let's do it as a named function because I know that will work. And don't worry about this file. Like we're essentially just going to run that Lua file by itself. We're not going to go through like the extension framework.
Got it. So that doesn't matter. Picker is our file. Picker will always be our file. And then what was it, Lua?
I think you want to have it be a named function. Yeah, okay. 118. Instead of
so that we can call it.
You got it. Function goes before, yeah. And then local instead of return. And then at the very bottom, call smart go to finder.
Oh, we're just gonna literally.
Yeah. Literally all in this file.
So that it runs itself. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And you can swap out ops for an empty table.
Yeah, we know we're not using it, so it's not a required argument either. So
cool. All right. Yeah, and then Lua file percent should
and
run
then
it.
This isn't finder anymore. This is picker. Wait, the first one's a finder, the second one's a picker. I just want to make sure I get go to.
Yeah.
Picker.
Yeah, sorry, I missed that one.
No, it's me. Sweet. So then we Lua something.
Lua file. And then percent for the current buffer. And that should run it.
Sweet. That is awesome. So this creates a table. It inserts the listed index by index position on the table, and this becomes like something like this. So we've got these.
Yeah.
There's a little visual block magic. How are you liking multiple cursors? Aren't you a multiple cursors guy?
Yeah, so I have the Vim Visual Multi. I like it. There's a couple of gotchas with it. Like it's not perfect. Like you can't do X. Like X doesn't like delete into the register so you can save it off. And you have to switch between. There's like two modes in it where you're like highlighting. You basically go between visual and normal mode. And so there's like a couple of gotchas, but there's some cool stuff with it. It's very similar to like, you know, Sublime Text, VS Code, IntelliJ, where you
Yeah.
just hit one thing and you can highlight everything. It's pretty nice.
All right. Oh, look at that. None of these wanted to play nice. File name.
Wait,
Print.
we're accessing file name, but we don't have file name there, right?
It's row call. Row call. I'm gonna probably just do
Oh,
row call.
yeah.
3x. Row call, row call, row call. Look at that. We sped things way up. Index row, index row. So this becomes index. Index. Okay. And so then
type
this
is Harpoon.
Yes. I love pair programming. It keeps you honest, right?
Oh yeah.
I'm like, wait a minute, I should have known that. I guess it was already here. File name is lowercase.
Better pair programming, we'd switch drivers more often. I feel bad, like you've been driving a ton.
I know. Okay, sweet. So David says we can do this type return if we want. So I can say that return smart go to entry array. Well, because the idea is I wanted to repeat that here.
Yup.
And I don't really care about this anymore. I don't think this is useful. So I'm gonna just say local Harpoon marks equals this, and then all of this is going to get returned here, and then this goes away. Yeah, it just felt silly to like have that indirect thing going on. So
yeah, that makes sense.
did I lose something important? Oh. Yeah, I did lose something important. What did I lose? All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and undo that. Oh, list was the argument. So this inc rename. Is it better to do this lowercase? What is this called? Snake case?
Yeah, snake case. I feel like I see snake case more often in Lua.
So we're going to call this
and then if it's all caps, it's screaming snake case.
I love that. I've never heard of screaming snake case, but I instantly want to do it for everything now. Well, usually constants are uppercased, right? So we're going to call this
exactly
Harpoon entries.
I like that.
So it's these kinds of entries, which are going to become hard-coded entries. And this guy should be that guy, and the entries then loop through. And then I've never been a fan of naming things what they are. Like when it comes to like data structure, like this is a list, so let me call the variable list.
Yeah.
And I'm like, let's not do that, please.
Agreed. Yeah, I've been bitten by that too many times.
And I tend to call out, and I do a lot of code review at work, so I'll always call that out. I'll be like, hey, you don't need to put the word object in the variable name. Like we don't need to do that.
Agreed.
So I'm one of those guys. All right. So
yeah, I've done a lot of Ruby, so naming is very, very important in Ruby too, because it's also not typed. So if something has an S, that means you're getting an array back.
Yeah, that makes sense. All right, so then that's this smart to go to entry, and then this down here will become this because we're normalizing it. And then we've done that, so now we need to normalize. So then our buffers are all... I've been trying to work on getting folds set up. Do you have something that you've done to get folds to work with tree sitter automatically?
Ooh, what do I use?
I was playing around with something and it was kind of helpful, but I haven't really gotten it fully working yet.
Yeah, let me look at it real quick.
I'm just curious. Okay, element. So element becomes that thing we were talking about. So element should be a smart go to entry, which means we will take all of this and we will, for some reason they called it that, buffer, file name. So we're gonna vim print element, and we're gonna get rid of this vim print, and we're gonna call this guy again, and we're just gonna borrow from the pattern. So let's head our way back up. Oof, there's a lot. Just give me one. Give me what I want. So the buffer number, that's interesting. I wanted to play around with maybe the buffer number is the index in this case. I think that maybe makes the most sense for now, for the sake of normalization. Info dot, can I call info? Buffer info. So that becomes this guy. And that becomes a lot of this, isn't it? Like buffer info row becomes buffer info lnum. And then we decided for now this can be 0.
Yep.
And the index becomes the buff number. And the file name is buffer info dot
Name, I think.
Name, that should work. And then we're gonna bring the print element. We don't need to print that anymore. And we don't need to repeat ourselves. And what else? Good on that. And then we just call it near local element buffer entry and then we're going to insert this into buffer entries.
Invim UFO is what I use.
Okay, that's the one I was playing around with.
Yeah, I think like ZC should do a close, and then a ZO will do an open.
Oh, that might be why. Okay. Look at that.
Let's go.
So the file name didn't work, and it looks like it took terminal, so that's some sort of invisible buffer that I maybe didn't want to play with. But I don't think did I format all this correctly? Buff info name. File name is this. Yeah. Wait, hold on. Is that the buffer?
What is?
So that's the tricky part. We have something. We have something.
No errors.
No errors. It loaded. So quick nerd font search for buffer. Oh, that's old file. Buffet. Yes, buffet.
It's a buffet.
It's a buffet, everybody. So we got our buffet. I'm thinking in return a different string based on a union type string of buffer or Harpoon. Let's see if they give me an else if statement. Okay, get function. I guess we're going to do this. Local get icon. And we're going to pass it a type. And if type equals Harpoon, then return this. Oh yeah. I do a lot of anonymous functions in my coding, so I don't always even write the word function.
Yep.
You know what's up. All right, so then else if type equals, is it double type? I think it's just 2. Buffer.
Yeah, it should be just 2.
And then return my buffet. And then this becomes get icon entry dot type. And then this guy is not ending play.
Yeah,
there
why
we
is
go.
it not?
I just had an extra end. I'm going to break these up. That's my 2. And the line we generated from up here, file name row call. So file name must not always be coming through. I'll get rid of that. Entry.call. Did I say file name? Is that what I ended up calling it? File name, yes.
Yep.
All right.
I also have another thing we need to update. We need to update.
Sweet.
Oh, I'm surprised that ran. Did we change where we're using row and call at the bottom?
Row and call. I think they were the same.
Oh, because we were setting a variable for each of those. But
and
now
it needs to be proper. You're right. It does need to be properly set. So we'll add a space there for now. Whew.
Uh-oh.
What did I just do? I should have committed this, huh? Picker. Oh, finder's in a file. Picker's the file. I'm just going to go ahead and feature work in progress, add normal,
Good commit point.
Harpoon, and buffers to same telescope picker. Oh, it got detached. Weird. In its attempt to generate the entries, it is erroring out somehow. Attempting to concatenate field file name and got null. So I'm not. Oh, because some of these buffers don't have file names. We know that. There's secret buffers, right? There's invisible buffers.
Oh yeah.
So we just need to say like, well, hey, don't add it if it's. I think there's more to this logic. So what do I want to do then? Here on the insert.
Well,
I could.
we're looping over the buffer numbers. I mean, do we just skip over? Do we have a guard clause and we skip over if it is empty?
Buffer entry dot file name. Can I just do an if like this?
Yeah.
I'm just going to only insert the ones that are. Yeah.
Is that? I don't know how like truthy works in Lua. Like if there's a thing in like, I don't know what blank means. Like we could check the length is greater than 0 or something like that.
It keeps trying to open Finder. Oh, maybe because according to Harpoon, it thinks that Finder should be here, but Finder doesn't exist. That's probably our first bug. Our first bug. So we want to open up Picker. And we want to run see how these are empty file names and they're buffers? Yep. So that's not it. If buffer I don't think that's how it works. All right. We're just going to learn more Lua. Where am I going? I'm going to buffers, buffer entry. Insert to buffer if it has a value and isn't empty. Does not equal, yeah, all right.
Okay.
We say, all right, that's fine. If you say so. If you say so, AI. All right.
It seems fine.
It's fine.
I mean, we've seen that line before.
This is the entry, so I kind of want to know, like, what does the end result look like?
Do you want to...
I end up returning buffers here, so I could just turn this guy back on.
Yep. That's good, right? It only had one? Or did it have more than one?
Is this the time? 22. No, that's not the time. Maybe that buffer was outdated. It was. So I have two values. There are two buffers. I probably should get rid of the files that are bad. And then I should probably open up another file, mark it, and then get rid of the buffer and then run it. So,
I like it.
So then here are my 3 entries. It's a table of tables. These are my 3 files. The indexes are indexes. Do they clash? No. The rows are different. The buffers, buffer. They're all buffers. Do I have a Harpoon entry? Oh, I only dumped buffers. That's fine. The print only printed buffers, so that's all we're going to see. So it's flashing and then going away. Hey, let's go. So I definitely need to widen. It so that I can get more characters. And then the second piece is I very much want the smart. If possible, I want the smart. Because see what happens when it's not smart is that it
truncates.
It truncates on the end, which is kind of not helpful. Plus you're getting all this full path stuff that isn't really useful. All right, so then our displayer, we create an entry. I'm going to remove that. I'm going to give this a spacing of 2 and I don't know, 550 remaining. So this becomes our type, our index, our line. That feels cleaner. And then feature.
Does it always have the separators?
I think it's because I've added more than 2. Or I've added more than, yeah. So then we'll try that differently. So we'll do like 8. Oh, it does have the separators. I bet I could get rid of them with this guy. We were just looking at it. I'm going to keep this. Go back. Separator. So we can make separator an empty string.
Okay.
That's how they get you. 5 feels reasonable, and then I'm going to repeat this. So hey, all right. So then we're going to feature get picker working. Why did I lose my commits? That is so weird. How do I recover from this?
You're in a detached head state?
Yeah. All right. That's it. We're good.
You could cherry pick those commits.
Yeah, I could have. I was just attached, so I was like, how do you grab detached ones? Dan, let's go. Dan wants to. He mentioned a few moments ago. He wants to clean up his Git diff plugin. Dude, share a link. We'll take a look at it, man. I like seeing other people's work.
Always.
All right, so that's that. He's on YouTube. For those that are on Twitch, I'll forward this to everybody. And next time, Andrew, we didn't plan all of this out, but my streaming software would allow for you to go live on your stream if you wanted at the same time. So your YouTube channel and your Twitch or whatever, it could be live while mine is live. So that's kind of a cool feature.
Yeah, we should try that next time.
This is not as bad as I had thought it would have been. This totally works. Now the question is, can I open this file? No. So that's going to be the trick here.
Have we set any actions? I don't think we have. So I mean, we
this one,
we could get it to work.
This one, when I choose it, it works. So this one isn't previewing. The question would be, okay, well, why isn't this one previewing? I think we need to first maybe get them smarter. So the actual entry maker, boy, we haven't been in Telescope code for a while. All right, so the way in which we display, the display is the line from the entry maker. The entry maker maybe I'll just search icon and start there. Entry maker icon, generate from file. So that's the kind of thing where I'm like, can I pass this in? And if so, it transforms dev icons, it creates raw output, and then it generates the new path by doing all the things it needs to do, and then it returns this thing. So I don't know if this is available to us. Yeah, make entry. So we can we can just pull it in and see. Let's go make entry. This is our entry display. Displayer. Make
is that a local at the top?
entry.
Is that where you pull in entry?
Yeah, I have it up here already. Make entry. So we've done make entry a couple times here. This is entry maker. It defaults to generate from file.
Okay.
And this returns the entire entry, which is different than my entry maker. So we do pass entry maker. I thought we did. Entry maker. So this is the overwrite. So I can't necessarily just say use the other entry maker. Unless I don't know what it thinks a file is. Like there's no typing here. So like what is the options in your mind? Current working directory, or it looks through this vim loop command. And then it takes the entry from, where does entry come from? On the display. So we did that as well. We do, oh, I need to go back to my code. So on ours, we do a display, make display, display. So I'm doing this make display. I'm guessing this make display needs to be different and needs to be more like what they're doing here.
Yeah.
And this is the icon and the highlighting group, and then it forwards the display by transforming the path, and it takes the entry value. So do I have an entry value? I could just do this differently.
That's probably just our file name.
I'm going to try this, and I'm going to see how well it plays.
Cool.
So that is, it's checking for if things are disabled, and then it transforms that and adds a highlight group and adds it to the display. So I basically want to do this. So I guess I'll copy it, local function get pretty file path.
Sure.
And then entry, and then end, and then this is the entry. So they like, I keep being in the wrong mode. All right, let's get rid of that. So then there's this guy. So utils should come from utils.
Telescope utils.
Works for me. That should be fine. Trains for devicons. If disabled, okay, so the disabled one means I'm going to have to pass ops through. Ops comes from up there, doesn't it? Redefine local. Oh no, we already have it, so it's already locally scoped. So,
Yeah.
So then I will just go back and locally. Excuse me, set it.
Bless you.
And we, I think, will put that there.
Like it.
So then the question is, it wants, this thing comes from entry.value. So what is that? I don't know what entry.value.
Oh, I was thinking that was our file name, right?
Well, I mean, we can't assume it. I don't want to assume that that's what it is. Load once, has dev icons, function. There is file name. Yeah, file name. You were right. It was a good assumption.
It was a total guess. It's fine.
It was a good assumption. So we want file name. And then on our, oh wait, this is Telescope's code. Whoops. On ours, file name. And then here, we're not going to toString it, and we're not going to do the line anymore. Which for now, this is our old way of doing things. And now we're going to get pretty entry. Okay, fingers crossed. Does this blow up? Does this not work? Do we get no results? Look at that, no results. Make display player, entry, file name, file name. No results. All right. Oh, and line, ordinal needs to be, do we have to define this separately? So they did this, where it's like local line equals that, and then ordinal is line, and it's unknown. Line, and then this becomes line, I guess.
You give a trailing comma? Yeah, there you go.
Got it. Let's go. That's it. I mean, that's exactly what we wanted. Now, the highlighting groups aren't working.
The icon's there.
And the final icon, okay, so then that becomes, this becomes remaining true. Yeah. I probably need to set the width then. Width. What would be reasonable? 50, 60? Yeah, so I want to use up the remaining space. We'll have to play around with that so that this is reasonable.
Yeah.
It's just not reasonable right now. But look, Harpoon, buffer. So it's been smart enough so far, and I can go to any of them. Let's go.
That's legit.
Legitness. Dude, it totally worked. It's a win. It's a win in my book. This is doing what we needed to do. I will say that the actual entry itself is there's more to be desired for sure, because I would want to see the end of this, and for some reason it's not being clever enough.
Is that a telescope override that we're just not? It's just not working, or
we are not passing options to this, right? So now that we're calling this on its own, I need to actually smart go to picker, right? I need to export it. What is the best way to attach this to the extension now? We originally just created the local function.
Yeah, you should be able to return return that function, and then you can hook it up to the extension again.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah. So here it is. Smart go to dot picker. So that's smart go to dot picker, and then is there? I usually return the function. So do you want me to just return the function again?
Yeah. Yeah, and you don't need to name it anything. I think it was, well, I want to say we had it, just like that previously.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's go.
There you go.
It works. We're gonna
first try.
Yeah. Woo! It does it. It actually does it. And we have a question from Cowface Dev. I guess what you're probably asking is, can this previewer code change? From what I know, it's just using tree sitter. So whatever theme you have set on your code editor for like your normal code color scheme is going to be applied here as well. So something to think about. But the question now,
I think that's how it is.
Okay, so this was like a buffer issue. So the Harpoon entries are different from, let's just like open the README, I guess. And let's see if telescope smart go to, there it is. It is still trying to climb through the entire thing. And I think for now, what I'm going to want to do is, well, I guess a buffer, any file could be open at any time. So that's still valid. So these are all the files. These are the buffers. The buffer isn't color coded right now. And so my question was, I don't know how much more you want to work on this with me tonight, but I have a little bit more time left.
Yeah, I got a little more time.
Let's see, feature, connect to picker. Connect to picker. Do we try our, do we actually work to try to get this to color, like show colors? Like, is it worth the effort? This one I want to be way smarter. So I'm thinking right now that when we give it buffers, so if we go back to the buffer code, internal buffer, where was all that code that we were working with? I'm guessing the file that's given to the smart picker, generate from buffer, this probably has more.
More options or?
More going on with it. Yep, so see, here it is. So we have the icon width, dev icon logic, displayer creation. So they're being smart with the width.
Mm.
Then they're doing icon width, and then they're doing remaining, which is kind of what we're doing. And then the current working directory, I think they overwrite.
Yeah.
Buff
I
width,
think so too.
nodes, icons, 3 spaces, numline. So like this whole displayer, look at this. Telescope results number, telescope results comment, icon, highlight group, and then the buff name, and then the line number. So like all of this is something special that they're doing.
Yep.
We were thinking about gen from buffer. I wonder if I could pretend like every Harpoon entry is a buffer. I don't know if there's going to be, as long as everything is matching, meaning the values that we pass it are normalized, then maybe it all will feel the same.
Yeah.
Or I just go through this one by one and recreate it.
I mean, because essentially you'd want the entry API to match, right? Which it looks like they're calling file name on entry in that make display function. And then if you go down a little bit more, they're calling a different thing, like lnum, I think. I forget if we defined that.
But we
go down just a little bit more.
Yeah. Display buff name. So display buff name we did. We did something like that.
Yeah.
Display, and then we took transform path. And so we did transform path. And then icon and highlight group we also did. So display highlight group icon. Maybe the highlight group isn't being returned. Vim print HL. That's my guess. Although I don't know, I think the code has to be reinstantiated somehow. Can I call on Lua file? Can I call a function on here?
It's a good question. I think you could do
like that.
I'm thinking you could do a require and then call the function, like Lua, and then require that file name dot function.
Oh, interesting. That just did something weird.
Dev icon Lua.
Require it, yeah. So we could do a require. Dev icon Lua is what's being returned. So that's the highlight group. All right. So maybe I need to get rid of that Vim print. Wait, I thought I did. Picker, highlight group.
I thought you did too. Did you write?
Yeah, but I don't know if writing the file automatically changes it. So it seems like when I have a buffer, I'm not getting a buffer now. Now I'm only getting Harpoon results. Okay. Oh, this is Telescope's code. I'm being silly. Picker. Yeah, I mean, pretty file path. File name, file name. Yeah, I don't think it's the end of the world to not have color highlighting for V1 of this. But I definitely don't want regressions where things stop doing what we want them to.
I mean, what's changed? What have we changed?
Nothing since I committed.
Yeah.
So these are the files that are open, and if I open up more, Smart Go to, and then I'm going to just go ahead and remove that. All right. It was just being funny. Something to think about, though, because there could be like, if there's a certain condition met, that maybe it like isn't rendering properly.
Right. Like only one buffer or something.
Yeah. But we're on the right path here. Like Harpoon 1, those are the buffers, and then 145, so like 145, yep, 145, 192. We can see that this picker, maybe it's Harpoon files that, no, we saw Harpoon. Picker is 1, and then in Telescope, it's also 1 picker. And if it's not open, is it still show up first? It does. So that's happening only because I'm currently sorting by
the number.
The table is generating the Harpoon entries first in the table.
Oh, you're right. You're right.
And then I render
because we don't do any English sorting.
So as I want to do more with this, I will be able to fine tune it and control it. And like, I think what will happen in the future, I don't know why it's not working now. So if I have README open and I add it to Harpoon, so Harpoon has README and there's a buffer called README. When I open this, README shows up as a Harpoon entry. So it must be, there must be some mechanism under here that's probably tracking, in my mind, it's probably tracking value or file name or something about, or maybe ordinal. Maybe ordinal is, let's see if there's a, I mean, it's just a number, right? So maybe they're using ordinal to like make all entries unique. There's got to be something in here that's probably making it unique. So if it sees the same thing multiple times, then it goes, hey, this is, you know.
What is the table? Like in the table we see, like the after it does the merge, we see 2?
Yeah, that's a good question. So that shows up in results. So results came from us merging these together.
But you could wrap that in a function and then do a print inside of it.
Yeah. Yep. And then oh, nice. I need to like pop this up somehow by default. It's only returning the Harpoon entries, even though there are buffers. And
you
if
have the README open?
It must be force. Maybe there's something about force. Use values from the rightmost map. Keep use values from the leftmost map. Error, raise an error. So it has to do with the keys. So if I change this to error,
keep,
well, it's going to do the opposite direction, right? So let's open these two. Let's add a third buffer. And then let's run Telescope Smart. And it's going to say, hey, you have indexing. Your indexes are repeated. So that makes sense. So I love the idea of letting this table deep extend let me say, what did I end up using earlier? Force?
Yeah, because then it'll grab the Harpoon stuff first. And you could just nest that and get your hierarchy.
I just order these and I say, if this one has a duplicate, then it will force it on top of the next entry. And then I wanted to order them anyway. So, oh, now it's going to complain. Interesting. So you can't, that's what I was talking about earlier, is like, you have to, I bet I could write an auto command that says, hey, automatically reload the extension when I change the source code. That's probably the best path.
Yeah, you could certainly do like I think what somebody was suggesting, like you do a Lua require and then the file and call it that way. Then you're not going through all the machinery.
Got it. Very cool. So we ended up table deep extend, and I just happenstance, I just picked an option that happened to be the right one.
Woo!
I love that. You got to love just falling into the right solution. Okay. So then we got a little bit of time left. Do you want to like decompress? We got a few more people hanging out, but look, my camera's dying. This is fun though. I use OBS, so I can switch cameras, and this becomes a handheld. So we have our dogs. Our other dog is underneath the bedding. Where did she go? I don't know, she's over here. So we're having a good time. But every now and then I think I lost. Did I lose it?
Yeah. There you go.
That's all right. Well, I will commit and push this so that people can play around with it and see it. Thanks a lot for joining me today. This was really fun. I hope you had some fun.
Yeah,
we nerded out, and then we did some coding. It's been a few hours now. So this was fun. I will probably mess around with git diff next and see if it's possible to like use some sort of Lua command, or maybe there's something I can pick out from the Telescope code already and then like show git diff last. And maybe I stop there for a while and play with it and see if it's just useful every day. But I think for me, I want to be able to reach for any file. So I am going to need to be able to add all project files in the current Vim project. But I think if I just rinse and repeat this process and then do the table merge in the order we were talking about today, that it should work. I mean, it should just do exactly what I want. And then maybe there's a way to let other people add to it, but that usually comes a bit later once you get the project working. But there's things to be desired for sure. We already can see there's a wish list of better debugging and better workflows so that we can run code quicker. And even if I had to close Neovim, I'd love to open it back up with all those things already open so that I don't have to trigger it over and over and over.
Yeah. There's definitely some improvement there to get faster feedback and like iterate on it faster.
Oh yeah, and Dan's bringing it up, like just calling the git diff name only main. Like that would work. I don't know if I guess I'd still need all of the file system info, like the full path. So I don't know if Git will give me the full path. So there's like pieces of like that I probably have to deal with. And then it would be really cool. I've been trying to play around with this idea of a buffer that lets me see all Git hunks. So it might be kind of cool to like split it up by hunk somehow. That would be a cool idea. If I wanted to
probably have some of that out of Git signs too.
Yeah, so you could like target it to like this file in this specific hunk I want to go to. I don't want to just go to the file. So either detect the first hunk or something like that. So I'll take notes. I'll write these ideas down. I'll probably make some GitHub issues on that project so that others can choose if they want to contribute. And maybe I'll do more of this on another stream here. We seem to have fun. Huge shout out to David and Dan for the like continual feedback. You guys are super helpful for sure. It was a good time getting some feedback from all of you, and some of you asked some good questions, and this was really fun. Oh, my dogs are ready. They think the day's over.
We're done.
All right. Do you have anything else you want to add, Andrew, before we go?
No, it's been fun. I hope we do it again. And yeah, I learned some good stuff, and this gives me ideas for my Postman extension or plugin that I want to make.
Totally. And Lua is fun. I think Lua has its benefits. I think if you learn the typing, that you could write a lot more robust code. So it's kind of gradual as much as you decide to use it. But yeah, this is fun. Thanks for coming on. And if you guys haven't already, follow Andrew on Twitter and follow his YouTube channel. He's making cool Neovim stuff. And me and him went over his full Neovim tmux workflow a little while ago. And it's kind of sitting in the archives right now. So at some point here soon, I'll be editing those conversations, and more of that will be on my YouTube channel. So thank you all for being here, and I will see you guys next week.
Thanks, Josh.
Thanks.